Welcome back, Star Wars fans, to Coruscant Radio Underground. I am Andrew. I'm here tonight with Marisha, and we're waiting. We're waiting here for a second to see if we can hear ourselves on YouTube. Yay, we have sound. I have to check it. After I do a 15-minute show where nobody could hear me.
Yeah.
I just feel like I have to check it every time. So
that's fair. That's fair.
Real quick, since we didn't announce this, it's not pre-planned. Nobody's in the chat. I'm going to play this video for just a second while we wait. So give y'all a minute to filter into the chat. So enjoy this. I know Marisha will. And Andrew's in the chat.
How's it going?
Welcome. I don't think I've seen you in our last couple. I know we've been on at odd times. Everything's going good here, though. Glad to see you. And I promise I'm still working on scheduling for that trivia night. I will let you know. Basically, I've got one person that I'm having trouble finding a time that works for. So if I find another third player before we get a time that works with him, then we'll just schedule with the new person. Shockingly enough, I've had the worst time finding people to play trivia. Usually I say, hey, who wants to play trivia?
Mm-hmm.
And I get enough people sign up immediately. But I said, hey, let's talk about some Edgar Wright movies. Crickets, total crickets, which absolutely blows my mind.
Okay, but generally you say, hey, let's have Lord of the Rings trivia. Let's have Star Wars trivia. And
though,
based on your follower demographic, that's not surprising that those generate more response. If I was like, hey, let's have Jane Austen trivia, I probably wouldn't just have people coming out of the woodwork. And for the record, I could win Jane Austen trivia.
Well, I don't know anything about Jane Austen, so I can't really write Jane Austen trivia.
Alas.
But I believe you could win it. So, you could probably have a Jane. I think there's probably enough people in the network that would play Jane Austen trivia with you.
Maybe. Yeah.
Never.
Then we'd have to decide: are we just doing Jane Austen books? Are we doing?
Well, see, that's the challenge.
Are we doing movie adaptions? Are we doing? How can you have Jane Austen trivia and not have the 1995 Pride and Prejudice? It's like the seminal Jane Austen adaptation.
Yeah.
But then there are also a lot of TV Jane Austen adaptions. So, oh my gosh, you got that is awesome.
That's really cool. Post a picture of it in the Discord. I want to see it. That is very, very cool.
For sure.
But that's the difficult thing when you have someone like Jane Austen. It was like when we were doing Lord of the Rings trivia. It was like, okay, but what are we doing? Like,
what are the criteria?
We have to restrict the scope of this. It's like doing Star Wars trivia. Doing Star Wars has really reached a point now where it's like, well, what are we restricting it to?
Right.
I'm actually kind of thinking about doing an Ahsoka trivia when the season's over.
Ooh, that'd be fun.
Well, we usually do a wrap up. We usually do our we'll do our episode 8 reviews next week. But then the next week we will usually do something like a roundtable event. And I think we'll do a roundtable, but we'll mix it with trivia.
Oh, that'll be fun.
So we'll kind of do trivia, because a lot of times trivia leads to discussions. So we'll kind of use trivia to launch us into
everything leads to discussions.
But we'll use the trivia to kind of guide the discussion.
Okay.
So I think we're going to kind of mix that. So if you're interested in getting in on that, let me know. I know we have a few that should be interested in that.
Sounds like fun.
Well, we waited. So we're going to go ahead and get into the subject matter at hand here, because we do want to finish up. It is 6:03 p.m. Central Time, and we're going to be done by 7 p.m. Central. Scarif Scuttlebutt podcast goes live at 7. So we're going to wrap up, a couple minutes before to give them room and to give everybody, whoever shows up here, a chance to get over. If anybody, Andrew may be the only person in the chat this evening, given that we didn't advertise this at all.
We did not.
And we're live a little early. So
It's true.
It's a little early for a Saturday.
We kind of have to run a little bit early these days because some of us have to go to bed early.
Yeah, Marisha will just fall asleep right here on stream.
Could happen. We did have one day I was sitting over here like the whole second half of the show, like batting him in the leg, like I'm ready to go. I'm ready to be done. I'm tired.
Yeah, it's true.
Yeah.
I mean, I haven't fallen asleep during a stream. I have fallen asleep playing Halo.
Yes, for sure.
I did, but that's what, I used to play entirely too much Halo. And
you did.
Play till 3 or 4 in the morning, and next thing you know, you just fell asleep right in the middle of a game.
You still fall asleep playing video games.
Not mid-game.
Super often. Oh, well, okay. That's fair.
I fell asleep playing Halo. I'm shooting a guy, and then next thing I know, it's an hour later, and everybody's gone.
That's great.
So I'll have to pull that up. I don't have my Discord pulled up right now. I'll have to pull that picture up and look at it when we're done. But let's jump into Ahsoka episode 7.
Yes.
What do you think? Because we did do our immediate reaction to this on Tuesday night, but you hadn't had a chance to discuss yet. So
I really loved it. I thought they did an excellent job. I was a little apprehensive about Ezra, just because, anytime they recast a well-loved character, it's kind of a little bit scary, but he was great. All right, let's talk about this. Don't you want to take us prisoner? It was very, I felt like it was very on the nose, casting wise. So
yeah,
it was just, I just feel like this show is just continuing to improve.
Yeah. So, I thought that episode 5 and 6 were maybe just a touch better than episode 7. I felt like there was more content, more to those. There was a little more meat.
Yeah.
But I'm not complaining because we got a lot more action in this episode than we've been getting. I think we're setting up a lot of interesting things. I think, man, Balin is so intriguing. I just don't know what's going on there. There are some really great theories out there and some really wild theories. You buying any of the theories out there? You buying that he's gonna free Abeloth, or maybe he's Snoke?
No,
I'm not buying the Snoke theory, but it is is out there.
Okay.
And it's sort of a prevalent theory.
Really?
I'm seeing it more than I would have thought. I don't buy it. I don't think it makes any sense whatsoever. I think that Snoke was in our prime, which I'm just calling it the prime galaxy until we do something otherwise, but
yeah,
he's in our prime galaxy, I believe, the whole time, because he's aware. He talks about being aware, watching the rise of the the fall of the Republic and the rise of the Empire and all these things. I don't know where he was, but he was aware of things. I'm not sure that he would be as aware of all that if he was out here on this. Also, don't think that Snoke was scary enough for the Night Sisters to be trying to escape him. Maybe I'm wrong. He was obviously powerful, but they're not nothing.
Yeah, no. I don't know. I think it's going to be, honestly, as far as the exactly what is Skull looking for, I'm really content to just kind of leave that and see where it goes. There are some things that I'm always like, oh, need to analyze this, need to, come with all the theories. This one, I'm kind of happy to just sit back and see where it goes. And honestly, sometimes I've gotten increasingly, I think, where I kind of enjoy entertainment where I don't feel like I have to try and guess what comes next.
Yeah.
Even though it's sometimes fun to speculate, I'm honestly a lot of times the things that I feel the most invested in trying to guess what comes next are the things that I it's like I really hope they don't do this thing, so I hope it's
Yes.
that.
Yeah. I
Does that
sort of,
make
yeah,
sense?
no, 100%. Cause I was just thinking, like, I don't necessarily like, I'm having fun speculating,
Mhm.
but at the same time, it's so good. And I
Mhm.
really just, a lot of it's just totally up in the air.
Mhm.
And I'm just completely willing to let Dave tell me the story.
Mhm.
Like, I don't have anything, like, I don't have a pet theory that I'm going to get, my feelings hurt if it doesn't pan out that way.
Yeah.
There are any number of things that could be out there. I mean, I've seen speculation about the Bendu or another Bendu-like creature.
Mhm.
Something to do with the ones, even though I think all the ones are dead.
Hmm.
Um, which Abeloth would be a theory that if they would likely tie into the ones.
Mhm.
I don't know if you're familiar with the Abeloth
The Abeloth,
character.
he's like some kind of primordial force
Okay,
creature,
so
right?
she's this
Or
creature,
she.
or
Okay.
she's a human woman, starts off with, and basically becomes companions to the ones. Or
Okay.
okay, so
Yes, yes, I
in
do
the old
remember
stuff they
this.
were celestials,
Okay.
and we don't know if the celestials and the ones are the same thing.
Okay.
I tend to think they are.
Mhm.
Tend to think that Filoni kind of redirected them a little bit. One, to not call them celestials because that's a big Marvel thing.
Right.
Um, but so basically, she drinks from these. It's kind of a Garden of Eden situation where she drinks from this fountain that
Mhm.
she shouldn't have, and then jumps into this other one. And I forget, one's the font of knowledge, and then I don't remember what the other is. But basically, it just twists her, very Gollum like. It
Mhm.
twists her into this evil. But she's part of her problem is she's mortal, human, and
Right.
she's very good. She was good at keeping balance between the son and the daughter.
Mhm.
She's a companion to the father, and then but she's getting older,
Uh-huh.
and so she does this in hopes of becoming immortal like them.
Right. So she's a companion to the Mortis gods.
Yeah, that's the ones.
Okay.
And so yeah, it twists her into this thing that they
Mhm.
eventually just flee from.
Okay.
And then so that the Abeloth character is a big villain during kind of the Jedi Academy era.
Okay.
She's like, reaching out, like, I think that
Mhm.
she's one of the entities that kidnaps or tries to steal away the Solo children,
Okay, yeah.
and a number of those kids got kidnapped a lot, like more than any kids, I mean, really should have.
They really need therapy at this point.
Well, I mean, yeah. But let's there are a lot of really cool theories. I mean,
Mhm.
it's is it the um I forget what they call them, the priestesses of the wellspring, the Yoda meets, the ones
Okay,
with the
yeah,
weird
yeah.
masks. Um, it's any number of things could be out there, and it could be
Mhm.
something brand new. But I do
Yeah.
know that Filoni, if his theory on Legends material has always been that
Mhm.
if we have something that fills the role of what we're trying to do, then
Why would
use
we create
that.
something new?
Why would we create something new? You
Yeah.
have this thing that fans have already embraced, use it.
Right.
So that's always been his methodology
Mhm.
with the expanded universe, which I think is probably best case.
Yeah.
Um, so I don't know, but let's talk about that opening scene. Andrew's talking a little bit about it here. Great having Anthony Daniels back.
Yes,
Yeah, I'm really
absolutely.
wondering. I'm not 100% convinced that was Anthony in the suit, but it was definitely him doing the voice.
Mhm.
Something.
No,
There
I
were
think
some
it
narrative.
was. He was at least he was there
Well,
because
he
he
did
talked
some
about
things.
being on the volume,
Okay,
and
well,
interacting
maybe
with the cast
so,
and crew.
because he did some things a little different with the way he carries himself, but he's also a lot
Yeah,
older.
he's a lot older than he was
Um,
45 years ago.
so, um, What'd you think about the opening scene, the hearing for
Yeah.
Hera?
The not a court martial.
Well, it was a court martial was recommended.
Yeah. No, I thought they did a really good job with that. And honestly, like the whole, I mean, obviously they intentionally didn't have Leia show up.
Right.
But also I think, you know, Lady Organa is too busy to be bothered with you and has sent her droid. Is also, I think, a little bit of a kind of diss at the whole proceeding. Like she's not even deigning to show up.
Mhm. No, it's I saw there were a lot of jokes. Was this meeting could have been a phone call.
Yeah.
I mean, so yeah, I know there were people that were upset, them using 3PO in this way and then just name dropping Leia and all that, and that's all really stupid. But the great thing was that, yeah, you're right. It's like it doesn't really make sense for it to have been Leia. Like
Mhm.
it makes perfect sense that she just sent 3PO
Right.
to take care of it because it wasn't even worth her time.
Right. And
But also, if you send an envoy, you don't have to answer questions.
right. Yeah. It's like, I don't know. This is all the information I have.
Now we know how
Oh,
Palpatine returned.
It's good to know.
And I see Isaac has joined the chat. Welcome. Thanks for popping in. What?
Oh, okay. So I don't remember seeing Andrew's picture before. I got a friend request on Facebook and I was like, I couldn't figure out. I was like, how do I know this person? So I'm going, yeah. Okay. Now it all makes sense. Because I was like, I don't see any like mutual friends. I was like, we have church people in common? No. Do we have, which is that's most of my Facebook friends are church friends or movie friends or related some way or other.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, good. Now I know and I will accept your Facebook friend request. Sorry. Like I could kind of, my life tends to be fairly compartmentalized. So whenever there's like overlap in my different facets of life, it throws me. Anyway.
So what'd you think? What'd you think about Senator Ziono?
Yeah, I mean, like that's pretty much the vibe we always got off of him, right?
Yeah, no,
and it makes you understand why Cass is such a little jackass. I mean,
no, it's consistent. It's very consistent.
It is.
Do you think he's getting a paycheck from the Empire or the Imperial Remnant?
Yeah.
Or is he just that off-putting?
Like, I mean, 50-50. Either one, I think, is a pretty good possibility.
But I liked it. I think my favorite part of the scene, obviously, C-3PO showing up is big. Senator Ziono refers to him as a mirror droid.
Yeah.
Which, I mean, Chopper's ready to take someone's head at that point. Like, Chopper's ready to fight.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I thought that was great. One, because it's another droid and Chopper's getting offended on behalf of droids, but it's also C-3PO, who, you'd think would have to be somewhat of a legend among droids at this point.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Chopper, he was very indignant.
Yeah. No, Chopper, I liked Carson is like, no, like pushing him back.
It's like me in a business meeting. We've had a few of those, and Andrew's like rearing it. I'm just like, what? No fighting, no fighting. Yep. Always fun.
But a good scene. Like it tells us a lot. I mean, obviously, we're not learning new things about the. Okay, so that's not true. We did learn one new thing that was really, really important here.
Mm-hmm.
We got a timeline.
Yes, finally.
We finally got a key piece of information that told us that this does in fact occur sometime pretty closely after Mandalorian season 3.
Yeah.
So that was a big piece of information because we've been guessing all season long as to
Right.
where we were in the. Yeah, I think Chopper's like always right on the verge of committing a crime.
Yeah. But yeah, I think it's nice that they finally gave us a timeline, a little, we
Well,
at least have a
something to tell us when this is occurring
mhm,
because it's not a crucial piece of information as far as this story, but knowing that this is leading us towards a movie that's a culmination of all of the stories from this era,
mhm,
it's a pretty important piece of information to help us understand what else is happening in the galaxy concurrent with this.
right. Yeah.
Or more importantly, we know now that all of our other story has already taken place. It's not running concurrent to this.
Right. This is our most
All the
recent
other pieces
information.
have already been arranged just the way we saw them at the ends of
Right. Their runs.
their runs.
Mhm.
So we know where Boba Fett is. We know where the Mandalorian is. We know where uh oh, what's her name? Bo Katan and the
Mhm.
Mandalorians are back on Mandalore.
Right, right, right.
We know where a lot of people that
Mhm.
should be important to whatever the movie is are. We know where Luke
Right.
is.
Mhm.
That's actually something I want to talk about before we go further in. Um, and then we'll get to that question real quick. But um, the more I think about, like, I just really hate the idea of this movie
Mhm.
with no Luke, no Leia, no Han, no Chewie. Now, Chewie, obviously, we don't have to do anything. We've already
Mhm.
recast successfully.
Right.
Like that one has the benefit of being a suit.
Right.
What do you think? Like, is there a chance that they can't keep doing the de-aging thing? It's too expensive and it
Right.
just doesn't look great.
No. And they're way too old. Like Hayden Christensen, you can be like, okay, suspend your reality for a minute and pretend like he's 20 years younger. Okay,
Yeah.
whatever. You can do impressive things with makeup.
Although ever since that first look at Hayden de-aged, he's looked better in every other scene.
Yeah,
Um,
that's true.
but I still like I don't that it's a lot different de-aging Hayden Christensen who still mostly looks the same. I mean,
Right.
Carrie, you don't even have Carrie.
Right.
Um, Mark Hamill looks nothing like he would have looked at this time. So, I mean, just like off the cuff, what are your thoughts on recasting the characters? I mean, we already
I think
technically
they're
have a
going to
Han
have
Solo.
to eventually.
I mean,
I
should they
just
just bite the bullet and just do it?
yes. I mean, and honestly, I've been saying that for a long time. Um, at
Hey,
some
Dragon Buddy,
point,
thanks for popping in.
I think they're just going to have to break down. I think they're just going to have to break down and recast. And, they may not ever be major players, like maybe they don't make a Luke Skywalker movie. Which is not, but if we're going to continue to play in this time period, we need an actor who can pull it off.
Yeah,
I just think that that's where we are. Um, and I think that, um, I
yeah,
think that they learned the wrong lessons from Solo.
I do too. I don't think that Solo was the fault of the recasting. It didn't
No.
help. It was an uphill battle. You were recasting not just a huge Star Wars character, but you were recasting for one of the best,
Yeah.
for a really big name actor.
Yeah.
Like that was going to be an uphill battle. Recasting for Carrie will also be an uphill battle.
Yeah.
I actually think recasting Luke might be the least problematic one because people have
Yeah.
been calling for a recasting of Luke
Mhm.
for years now. Where's Cara Dune? Yeah, I guess we're just going to conveniently never mention uh Cara Dune again. I
Yeah.
guess is where we're going with that. Andrew said thoughts on the final episode runtime being 42 minutes without credits. Um, I was hoping for longer, but honestly, the longest episode was or the second longest episode, I guess, was the one they put in theaters. I think
Okay.
if this episode had been over an hour, I think there's a chance they would have put this one. I think they felt
Mhm.
like episode needs to be at least a certain length to put it in the theater.
Mhm.
Maybe not, but I'm
Yeah, I mean, I'm always excited for longer episodes, but I do appreciate the model where they're not writing to a certain runtime, they're writing to a story. Does that make sense?
yeah. So yeah, I mean, as far as the 42-minute runtime, like I'm always down for longer.
Mhm.
I would like to see them a little closer to an hour. I would really like to see this finale be over an hour, but I think what that
Yeah.
tells us mostly is that I think a lot of people are expecting too much to get wrapped up in
Mhm.
this episode. I don't
Yeah.
think we're going to wrap up a whole lot, frankly.
Yeah. No, I
In
think
fact, I think that it may be that we see them leave for the journey back. It may just be that we see Thrawn leave for the journey back,
yeah.
and our heroes stranded in this galaxy for the moment.
Yeah.
I mean, I think you got to give Thrawn a head start going back because he's got to go back and regroup.
Right, yeah.
So, honestly, I don't know, but when you get 40 minutes, 40 to 45 minutes is roughly if you were doing a TV show with commercials.
Mhm.
Like if you were doing something on ABC, NBC, Fox, any
Right.
of that, if you were doing an hour-long show, that runtime is between 40 and 45 minutes. The rest
Yeah.
commercials.
Yeah.
So I think as far as the standards of length of time, that I think this is really kind of hitting that hour-long television runtime.
Yeah. And now that more things have moved to streaming, we've gotten used to hour-long things actually lasting for an hour, but
Yeah, some
traditionally
things, but not that many. But
no,
some
a few
things.
things. Yeah.
Andrew says, I'm not opposed to more in that part of the timeline that doesn't require the Skywalkers. I don't want to sound like yeah, no, I get it. I'm totally fine if they don't bring the Skywalkers in. Um, I'm just a little, I want the movie to do well for starters. Like, I think it's important this movie does well. And first of
Yeah.
all, it's going to have to be good, but I don't think having Luke Skywalker in it will hurt things.
No.
But I also think that if you literally, especially with the rumors going around that they're going to call Dave's movie Heir to the Empire,
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know about doing that without Luke.
Yeah.
Like, I think you're going to immediately lose a segment of the fan base if you do Heir to the Empire without Luke.
Yeah. I think.
Plus, I mean, I want to see Luke and Ahsoka together,
Yeah.
working together. I think that would be incredible. Let's see. Dragon Buddy, what'd you say? If 42 minutes gets us to the point we can step back in the story for more, cool. I think it will. If it was 1 hour, it would be disappointingly left on the edge of a cliff. Yeah. I mean, I don't ever want them to make an episode longer just to make it longer.
Yeah.
And I've said that, and that's the beauty of streaming. Your episode can be the length it needs to be to tell
Mhm.
the story that you're trying to convey. If you need an extra 5 minutes, take an extra 5 minutes. That's a luxury network television doesn't have.
Right.
So I think that this show might be doing a better job with balancing
Mhm.
the time. Like we had one that was only 30 something minutes, but almost all of them have been in the 40 to 50-minute range.
Yeah.
Yeah, no,
That's fair.
I mean, like if you gave me I'm a sucker for like space battles. Like if you just gave me a show that was like it was just called Space Battles, and you
Yeah.
gave me a 20-minute space battle every Wednesday night, I'd totally watch that.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, I guess it could get old at some point, but I don't think so.
I mean, not for some of us.
Ubaldo in the chat. I didn't see him come in. Oh, there he is.
Adult.
Still adulting. Yeah.
Adulting is the worst.
Yeah, we jumped on. We're just trying to hit this window before the Scare Scuttlebutt goes live tonight. So
Yes.
we started a
Yes.
little earlier than usual for us.
Hmm.
Let's see. There was a lot of stuff going on in the chat over here. Did I miss anything?
I mean, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think that we're gonna get a really, really nice setup.
Mm-hmm.
I just don't know what to expect. Like, I'm hoping that we're far enough through, at least with the writer strike being over, or I mean, have they voted?
They have not voted yet. I think the
So
vote
it's not
will be
officially over.
no, but I mean, generally, once the leadership accepts it, I
Right.
think
But
historically
basically
the
what
members,
I'm thinking is we're only 3 days away from the finale.
right?
Like, so as far as what they will be willing to announce on the heels of the show may depend on where they're at with the strike.
Well,
Because
there
we
is
don't
talk of giving permission for people to for people to start going back to work. Um, basically contingent on resolution.
Yeah.
It's like we think it's so basically the strike ending before a contract is actually signed.
Okay.
So that is a
So
possibility.
Andrew asked, could this season of Ahsoka be setting up Mando season 4? It's possible. I don't think it'll be a direct tie-in.
Yeah.
I think that you might. Okay, so what I think is possible, there's part of me that just wants this to be the lead into the movie.
Mm.
I'm afraid that if you try to do too much, I mean, do they really need any more ground building?
Mhm.
Like it seems to me that all the pieces are in place.
Yeah.
Like, we know where everybody's at. Everybody thinks that they're, done
Mhm.
fighting, right?
Right.
The Mandalorians have their home world. Din Djarin's gone off over here to just kind of be a keeper of the peace and take
Right.
some missions occasionally.
Mhm.
And Boba Fett is doing his thing on Tatooine. Everybody kind of thinks they got things wrapped up. I think that the next big thing is, oh, by the way, Thrawn's back.
Right.
So, but I don't know. It's very possible. We do still technically have another show set in this era that will happen before the movie, which
Which
is
is
Skeleton Crew.
okay, yeah.
We still don't know a whole lot about that one. We've heard a lot of weird back and forths with some people. I've heard it's so bad it'll never see the light of day. I've heard that it's excellent and that it's going to be amazing and all this. Who knows? I don't know. I haven't heard anything that's like from a real source on that. So
Mhm.
I'm gonna wait because I was excited about it.
Right.
That could be our tie-in that gets
Mhm.
us to that last step. But it is absolutely possible
Yeah.
that the first person, because we know he's out there taking missions. He's
Mhm.
helping Carson Teva.
Yeah.
Like, maybe we get a Mando season 4 and he's kind of the first one to run into, because I do think Thrawn may get back ahead of the rest of our heroes.
Mhm.
And I think maybe he's the one that's like, guys, we have to do something.
Right, right.
So yeah, it could very well be a lead into season 4.
So this is
I
an
am very skeptical of us ever getting a Mando season 4 though. I
yeah.
think is my biggest problem there is I think Mandalorian is as a solo series is done.
Yeah. And honestly, I think that
Yeah, I think that's more likely.
um they probably won't call it the Mandalorian season 4 though. They probably just
Well,
call
they
it.
should have renamed season 3 something else and it would have
Yeah.
flown better.
So here's an interesting on that point though. I was seeing something in talks about negotiations with this trend of basically having multiple closely related shows all with different names that basically that prevents because for multi-season projects everybody gets a price bump for season 2, right? If it's good enough you get a season 2, then everybody gets paid more. But as long as you're like, oh, it's something different, then all of a sudden you just keep paying your crews to make the first season of 20 different shows that all could have been just as easily one show.
Yeah, but I mean, I think like I don't know. I'm not sure. And yeah, Pedro's busy with The Last of Us, but I don't think it's going to matter much. I do think that that's going to have an effect on the longevity of the character, is because he's just become very popular and he's
Yeah.
just always going to be busy.
Yeah.
He's basically been reduced to a voice role
Yeah.
on this, and it actually kind of bugs me because um, I feel like the two stunt guys who wear the armor should be getting way more credit for the role.
Mhm. Yeah, that's kind of always been Star Wars's thing though, is the person with the voice has always been the one that got
Yeah,
the
I don't
most
think that's
credit.
just Star Wars. Let's see. Dragon Buddy says, I think we've been talking about Mando, Ahsoka, Book of Boba Fett, etc., is all leading to the Thrawn movie. One big go that weakens the Republic enough. Yeah, I think that's probably where the story's going. Although, I think the second half of that story is that the New Republic government's already that weak.
It is, but, like, this is sort of an outside threat that, could also galvanize your Imperial remnant.
Yeah.
Like, we
Well,
almost
no, we
did
have
win.
to see the Imperial remnant pretty much scrubbed out
Mhm.
before the First Order pops up.
Right.
So this will ultimately be where we see the complete erasure of the
Mhm.
Imperial remnant eventually.
Right. So I think that I'm just really glad that they're doing this, that they're kind of going this direction.
Right.
Um,
Yeah, no,
yeah,
they're definitely they're doing a lot of cool things. I'm anxious to see how Skeleton Crew ties in. I have no idea what the release date on that is now.
it seems like Skeleton Crew is going to mostly just be its own thing, though. It doesn't really necessarily seem like it's going to be very tied to all of this.
I I think that that's kind of what we were led to believe, but it's also occurring during this time period and involves at least one more Jedi.
Hmm.
So I don't know.
Okay.
Um, let's see. Something that I learned recently that I never thought of is that in a 7 season show, Ahsoka and Dooku never met or interacted. Yeah, yeah, because he had already left the Order.
Yeah. I see. I had because he was
Although
in
she had
Clone
been,
Wars so much, but he always interacted a lot with Obi-Wan,
well,
but
we've
not
also
with.
seen that he wasn't necessarily one that was around the temple much. He was kind of
Yeah.
off doing his own things.
Yeah. And even once he left the Order, he um didn't necessarily have a lot of interaction. Oh, sorry, with other Jedi. Yes, so it's always really interesting because you always assume that people who were active at the same time must have met, but every once in a while you're like, oh,
Yeah, well, that's what we were talking about earlier before we started tonight. Was
mm,
it's a big galaxy,
it is.
and there were
Yeah.
lots of Jedi, thousands of Jedi. Um,
Yeah.
so it's because it's like this idea. People keep getting upset with this idea that, oh, another Jedi that survived the purge.
Hmm.
It's like, well, first of all, Balin survived the purge, and he is clearly no slouch.
Right.
Like talking Ahsoka. Ahsoka
Hmm.
took out Maul,
Hmm.
and she couldn't beat Balin. Balin is a very, very strong fighter.
Hmm.
I mean, I think that's what they're conveying to us is this guy is something.
Yeah.
And I don't know what's going to become of him, but he has, and Ray Stevenson has absolutely killed that role. And
Absolutely.
it is such a shame that we won't get more of that
Yeah.
character. I don't know what the intentions were. The character may not make it past the next episode anyway,
Hmm.
but
Man, like, what a way to go out with your career, though.
yeah.
Like, it's
I mean, he was
it's
going
a
strong. I mean,
super
he was.
impressive last role.
Well, yeah, I mean, he had that, and his character on Vikings was fantastic.
I keep forgetting he was on Vikings.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but it was probably one of the best characters in that last season.
Yeah. Oh.
Yeah, I've heard that theory. I don't really know. I mean, Obi-Wan, there is the line where Obi-Wan remarks that he had a brother that he thought he remembered a brother,
Mm-hmm.
an older brother.
Okay.
Um, the only problem is I, based on the timeline, this would not likely be an older brother.
Mm-hmm. Well, and also most Jedi's, I mean, although
But it's also he
he's left the order, he
remembers.
could have changed his name.
Yeah, I mean it's possible. I don't really like the theory.
But if he were an older brother, then he would have also been a Jedi.
Well, you know, there were theories. Actually, they were beyond theories. When you go back to the expanded universe,
Mm-hmm.
there was actually strong indication
Mm-hmm.
that Obi-Wan and Anakin were brothers.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Had the same mother?
Well, they didn't have the prequel story at that time.
Oh, you're right.
We didn't have any stories in that era.
You're
So
right.
you could
I
make
was like,
you could make off the cuff remarks like that.
right. Because I was like, that doesn't make sense. We have
No,
we
it
don't have
doesn't.
a
It does
father.
not work in a prequel, in a post prequel era.
Okay. Yeah.
But it was a theory that
Mhm.
was there for a good 10 years.
Interesting.
So yeah, I mean,
I would love somebody to turn up and be a Kenobi.
yeah,
I'd rather than be a good guy, though.
right. So yeah, I don't know. I'm not totally buying it, mostly because when I look at Balin 9 years after Return of the Jedi, he just does not seem like what would be the older brother to A New Hope Obi-Wan.
I mean, New Hope Obi-Wan's been roughing it pretty hard, though. Like,
It's true.
Clearly, Tatooine is not good for the complexion.
No. He didn't drink enough water while he was there or something. I don't know.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, the Balin character has been really strong.
Mhm.
I would love to see a backstory. I'd love to see a novel. I would be all in on just a show. I'd love to go back and see his kind of from Order 66 forward, the bridge,
or even see him as a young Jedi. See him kind of, get a him and Qui-Gon, as contemporaries.
Well, we were kind of led to believe that him and Anakin would have been peers.
Okay. Yeah, you're right. Something happened that makes Obi-Wan look way older.
Yeah, he's hanging out with the Tusken Raiders.
Yeah. It's all that stressing about Skywalker children. I mean, have you ever seen somebody like before they have kids and then after they have kids? Especially once those kids get to be teenagers, like give you gray hair real fast.
But but yeah, it's an interesting theory. I don't think that it works.
It's fun though.
But it's a fun theory.
Yeah.
And it makes more sense than some of the theories that are floating around out there.
There are always it's like likely theories. There's on the line theories, and there's like the no way in hell theories.
Well, and you're only looking at it the one way and saying, right. Oh, well, Obi-Wan mentions having an older brother, but he remembers his older brother. So his older brother wasn't taken by the order.
Right. See, that was, he could also have a younger brother
that he never met.
Right. And that was the thing. Like, if there's an older brother, presumably the older brother is at least not force sensitive enough to be a Jedi, or he would also be a Jedi.
Right. So,
do we see actually any stories about sibling pairs as Jedi? And if they were, would they break them up? Would they change somebody's name? Would they even?
So, without having read any more of the expanded universe, or not the expanded universe, the
new canon,
the High Republic stuff, I do think that maybe there's a sibling pair.
Okay.
In that,
there should be a lot of sibling
but they're
pairs,
weird, non-binary, kind of weirdness, and part of the reason I quit reading the books.
So, but doesn't it seem like, based on everything we know about Jedi, that sibling pairs would be more the rule than the exception? But they're also big on not having attachments. So how do they control that?
Wouldn't tell them.
Yeah. Those things never work out well in real life, though. Those you separated at birth, kind of test.
Yeah,
children.
maybe. I mean, like this is literally like the whole thing is based on the way, certain sects of monks
Mm-hmm.
that children are sent by their family. It's an
Mm-hmm.
honor to be sent and become part of this order.
Mm-hmm. They're basically shakers.
But they'll never remember their parents or their
Yeah.
siblings. And if another sibling came along later, they wouldn't know.
Yeah. Unless they have the same name.
Well, I mean, so maybe see, but that's the thing. They changed the names of a lot of these Jedi names and are not
Are they
presumably
not
not their real names. So
that does beg the question.
in fact, that was the lore prior to Anakin Skywalker showing up and remaining Anakin Skywalker.
Interesting. Was that they just changed?
They're just given a name, given a new
Hmm.
name, which makes, I mean, there's a lot of religious connotations to that.
Yeah. Interesting. We have wandered far afield from
We have
our topic.
In fact, we've only got about 15 minutes left. So, first off, what do you think Thrawn is loading on the Star Destroyer?
He's either loading cryopods or bodies.
Yeah. We had a mention of the catacombs, so
yeah,
presumably bodies, but I'm not sure why they're taking said bodies.
It does beg the question. But I mean, it's definitely, there's definitely something person in those pods.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, presumably they could have cryostasis pods in the catacombs.
True.
But why? And that's the thing. Why would they be taking cryopods? Why would they be taking bodies? Unless this is to build their army, because we do see them kind of but there's lots of dead people on their other places. Or do they have a better affinity for reanimating Dathomirian bodies? I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. So I'm curious to see what's going on there. We see that they're mostly done loading through the events of this. I'm curious to see what it is because it doesn't appear that it's an easy task,
right?
Because they said it was going to take 3 rotations, and you got all these stormtroopers, and
right,
you would think it wouldn't take 3 days. Although we don't know how long a day is, to be fair.
Yeah,
I think in Star Wars we generally just have a consistent
standard rotation.
Yeah. At least that's always been the indication.
Well, yeah, they actually use the term standard rotation, right?
Yeah. So it can be a Frankenstein theory. Yeah. 100%. We've seen them reanimate. I mean, the reanimated ones are very zombie-ish. They're not.
But we do have to wonder what Malik was. Because Merrick, yeah. He seemed to be something not quite natural.
Yeah. So until they tell us different, I'm going to go with Merrick was a lot like Savage, that he was enhanced with Night Sister magic.
Okay.
Because he was very much in control of himself. Like he wasn't just, he
wasn't a puppet. Yeah.
So I'm going to go with that until they tell us different. That was the other thing. We had all sorts of speculation about the stormtroopers or the night troopers,
right?
Who are apparently very much alive.
Yeah.
We didn't see, green smoke, green gas, whatever, when they died.
Right.
So,
which was a good theory. It
was definitely good theories, but I'm curious to see exactly what they are, what makes them. Is this just a way of honoring, the Night Mothers, or the Great Mothers that now they wear these red bandages as part of their armor? I don't know. Are we gonna have we not seen all variations of the resurrection magic? I don't know. I'm not sure what to expect there. Yeah, I would like to know more about Merrick, and I don't know what I don't know if they ever will. I don't know if the character was important enough for them to ever tell us more of that story, but I'd like to see it. I'd actually like to see a comic book run filling in kind of an anthology comic book
Mhm.
series filling in some of these gaps for some
Yeah,
of these
that'd be
characters.
great.
Morgan Elsbeth,
Mhm.
Shin, and
Balin.
Balin and Merrick,
Mhm.
and I'd like to know more about those characters. But
Yeah.
so, what did you think about Thrawn in this episode?
So good.
Because this was our first
So
time getting
scary.
like a lot. You know, we got a good bit of Thrawn and we got a good bit of Ezra
Mhm.
finally. So I think we should spend our last 10 minutes here talking about those two characters before we run out of time.
Yeah,
here.
I think that we get to see him doing what he does. He's analyzing, he wants all the information, he's putting the pieces together. I mean, and that's his go-to move. Yeah. Well, I mean, not all of us look as good as we did 10 years ago.
It's true.
Just saying.
Why'd you look at me when you said that? Jeez.
No, I was talking about me. Something you just don't agree with, love. You look as good as you did 10 years ago. That's the proper response.
You do.
Mm-hmm.
But no, like, I think he's killing the role. I said it on Tuesday night. He doesn't necessarily look like the Thrawn we've seen.
Yeah.
I don't think there's a lot of people that you could have got with that just chiseled facial features.
Yeah, there
the
was
high
talk.
jaw, you know, the high cheekbones and
Whenever they first announced, oh shoot, the Scarlet Pimpernel for the Rise of Skywalker, I think a lot of people thought Thrawn because he's got that kind of that look. I can't remember what his name is. Richard something? The British guy who was like the big head honcho of the New Order.
Richard Armitage?
No.
What are you talking about?
Just never mind.
I got confused by Andrew's statement about was that meant for off air, Marisha?
No, I give Andrew a hard time all the time, on air and off.
It's true.
It's our dynamic.
It's part of the show. But I thought Thrawn was great. Like we see Thrawn, he very much matches up with the Rebels version of Thrawn.
Yeah.
He's willing to kind of like go into battle even if there's not a high chance. I mean, he sends out his people for this battle.
Mm-hmm.
Balin Skull kind of screws up his plans, doesn't show up to the fight.
Right.
He's relying on Balin being there to take care of Ahsoka.
Right.
Balin's got other plans. But at the end of the day, he caused enough of a distraction to give him the time he needed because his primary concern is leaving.
Right, exactly. Richard E. Grant. That's what I was thinking. Yeah. He kind of had that little gauntlet.
Yeah. I mean, there are probably, let's be honest, there were people that wouldn't have been happy. Some of the comments I've seen about the way Thrawn looks, they wouldn't have been happy unless you had like hired Henry Cavill for the role or something.
That would have been bizarre.
It would have been weird.
Very weird.
And maybe you go get Michael Cera.
or old Loki, Tom Hiddleston. Tom Hiddleston could have done a very interesting Thrawn. He's not quite as young as he used to be. But either way, I feel like the voice is so great, the mannerisms are so good. I'm okay with the fact that it's not exactly the look I was expecting. Now when I first saw the trailer, I was very skeptical because I was just like, he does not look like Thrawn. But he didn't say anything.
Right.
So but he gets here and he sort of exudes menace, and it's like,
I think it looks fine. And I think that the voice is great.
So good.
The voice is spot on.
Mm-hmm.
I think that was a smart move, carrying over the character just for the voice, because I mean, just about anybody else you had brought in, the voice was just going to be different.
Well, and the thing is, because it was an animated character with such a distinct voice, I think that was a large part of, the only version of Thrawn that we've seen on on our screens, had like, I think that the voice was the most important part of the existing character that we'd seen.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no. So I'm enjoying Thrawn. He's pretty much exactly what I need Thrawn to be.
Scary as
He's
all get out.
Yeah, no, it's going to be a great villain. Thrawn needed to be a good villain, and he's definitely trending that direction.
Yeah.
What do you think about Ezra?
Oh, I mean, like I already said earlier, I thought he was great. Again, always skeptical, recasting like a fan favorite character, even if it is from animated to live action, but he was just spot on. Isn't his hair supposed to be blue? No.
Ezra's hair?
Yeah.
I mean, so Ezra's hair at time, had some color tint to it.
Okay, but it wasn't like naturally blue hair.
I don't know. I mean, they never really said. I don't really care that they didn't go that route.
Yeah, except for his hair were blue.
It was never like
calling him Jesus.
It was never like Smurf blue or anything. Like, but they did the blue eyes, and the blue eyes looked really
the blue
good.
eyes were great. But no, Ezra Moses, I can see that correlation. That works.
Does that make the Noti the
children of Israel? Children of Israel, let my people go. Yeah, I don't think the Noti are getting out of their galaxy. I don't know. Do they want to? I mean, are they interested in being?
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, that's the thing is we act like the Night Sisters are fleeing something, but is anybody else, or does anybody else even like have real knowledge that it's even a possibility to leave? So I don't know. There's still a lot of
space
things.
Hobbits.
They are very hobbitish.
They're very hobbitish. They're great.
They even throw rocks and frying pans. Apparently,
frying pans. Yeah, the frying pans are great. But no, I was really enjoy getting to see Ezra a little bit, and honestly, I think like
Ezra was the most spot on casting of the bunch, maybe as far as the recasts from animation. He sounds like him.
Yep.
The character looks great. Like I think he looks enough like Ezra, but what I keep going back to is that Ezra had that photo of him with his mother and father, and he looks like Ezra's father.
Yeah.
Like,
and I feel like he's very believable, like how they wrote him as where you would expect someone to have come in a decade. Because you don't pick up exactly, people who've been through things, they don't pick up exactly where they left off.
Yeah. So I kind of, I mean, so what do you think, real quick? Because we don't have a lot of time left. But as far as Ezra not taking his lightsaber back, I know that was a real sticking point for a lot of people.
It was surprising because I totally expected him to be like, all down with that. But that does kind of fit with the way that like lightsabers kind of, it's important who it belongs to now, right? Like that's kind of something that's been established. Just like it's not Anakin's lightsaber anymore, it's Luke's lightsaber. It's not Luke's lightsaber anymore, it's Rey's lightsaber. That's kind of been an important kind of continuous conversation in Star Wars. And honestly, I felt like the whole I don't need it because the Force is my ally was a really interesting direction for him, but he's been here isolated with no tools. He hasn't had a lightsaber for a decade. He's learned to function without it.
Yeah.
So
I also wonder, I mean, the decision to leave his lightsaber behind in the first place when he knew he wasn't coming back.
Yeah.
Like, you're talking about someone that went to war as a child.
Right.
I think maybe Ezra just was hesitant to pick up a tool and kill again.
Yeah. So it was an interesting choice, but I'm okay with it.
Yeah. Anything else real quick before we wrap up?
I don't think so. I think, I'm just really excited to see what comes next.
Yeah, anything else from the chat before we wrap up? I'm going to wrap it up in the next 2 or 3 minutes, but so far, like I said, not my favorite episode, but still a very solid episode. There's nothing about the episode that I'm like, oh, I don't like it.
That hologram.
The one last thing we need. Oh yeah.
Loved
So
it.
let's real quick. You talking about Anakin?
Yes.
Yeah. So I wanted to ask you about this. I hadn't actually talked to you. I mean, she's had these recordings for a while, apparently, because these would have been filmed while she was still a child.
Mm-hmm.
But I almost get the feeling that maybe this was the last time or the first time that she had watched the final message.
Yeah.
That maybe because of what happened with him that she never got far enough to watch the final episode.
That's interesting. I mean, he had already been gone a very long time. Like by the time she found out that he was Vader.
Yeah. But I mean, maybe just him disappearing was enough for her to quit watching them.
That's true. And a lot of times people, they kind of hang on that, like, like.
I felt like it was a special moment
Mm-hmm.
for us to see that she's willing to pull those out.
Yes.
Because I think at the very least, she has not been pulling them out because Hu Yang didn't know they existed.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. I loved it. The holograms were just great.
The hologram was good. The last thing I want to talk about real quick before we wrap up, what did you think about the end? Like, Sabine has just told Ezra nothing. And I know for a lot of people, that's their biggest complaint. Like, even on people who are really enjoying it, it's like, how are they not having this conversation?
Yeah.
Now, I have a theory, or at least I have what I consider an explanation, but it's totally headcanon.
Yeah. I mean, I think he's learned patience. He's like,
I think he's not rushing it.
Yeah.
But I think as far as her not telling, I think she's convinced that she has found Ezra. There's no way back, and they're just staying where they are. She thinks Ahsoka is dead. And that's what she says in that final conversation there at the end of the episode is she says, and Ezra's like, wait a minute, you thought she was dead? Like,
oops.
Yeah.
Minor detail you left out there.
Right.
Yeah.
So I really think that Sabine's not talking about it because she doesn't think there's a way back.
There's no reason to.
Yeah.
Yeah, that works.
She got what she wanted. She got to where she's trying to get. And I think she's at this point somewhat at peace with the idea that she's found Ezra and they're stuck here.
Stay here with the noti.
Yeah.
Move on. All right, but it's time. It's time for Scarif to go live.
So Scarif Scuttlebutt podcast, if they went live on time, should have been live for the last 3 minutes. So if you got time, jump over there and check Roe out. I know he's got some guests on tonight. I'm not sure who all's on there, but I think they're talking about the same thing we are. So thank you for jumping in, hanging out with us tonight. You can find us on Twitter at crew_podcast. That's CRU_podcast. You can drop us a line at the sciencefictionary@gmail.com. And as always, check out all of the Red 5 Podcast Network at Red 5 Network on Twitter. And that's going to do it for us tonight. Thank you for hanging out in the chat to everybody that was here. Until next time, may the force be with you.
This podcast is a member of the Red 5 Network. For more Red 5 Network podcasts and content creators, visit bio.link/Red5.